We've come to Fairmount, Indiana, a small town in the rural Republican heartlands. Every year, the community here puts on a festival to celebrate the county's most famous boyhood resident, James Dean. And walking around, you feel like you're almost stepping back in time. But it's not just the vintage cars.
Indiana became the first state in America to pass a new abortion ban in the wake of Roe versus Wade being overturned. What you're seeing, even in this small rural county, there are real political ramifications for that.
Did you vote Republican in the last election?
I actually did not vote in the last election.
Did you not?
I didn't like the options.
Really?
Yes.
And is this an issue that might drive you out to vote?
Yes.
There are many circumstances that somebody would want an abortion, and I don't think it's anybody else's decision but that person's.
The new law is a near total ban on abortion, reversing 50 years of federally protected rights by withdrawing healthcare to over 1 million women in the state. And it's set to be a defining issue at this year's midterm elections.
We've just set back women to the 50s and 60s where you have abortions being performed in the alleys again. So to each woman their own.
Divisive topic, right?
With the midterms just 3 weeks away, I'm travelling the United States again, a nation that has grown even more polarised since Joe Biden assumed the presidency 2 years ago. And these midterms are not just about the balance of power in Washington, but the future of basic rights and the fragility of American democracy itself. Our first stop is Indiana's 5th Congressional District, in the suburban town of Carmel. I'm here to meet the Democrat running for Congress, Jeanine Lee Lake.
Okay, so we call it the Jeanine Machine. I don't know if I told you that.
She's starting an RV tour of the district, named the Road to Rovember, and fighting for abortion rights is a central
It
message.
smells like, get the hell out of my uterus.
What does the choice smell like? You're in a district that has been gerrymandered to make it more conservative. Do you think you have a shot on this message?
I think certainly with this issue being first and foremost in the minds of voters, I think it bumps us right back up. So that's why I'm fighting so hard. And, you know, for me, it's a game changer.
It's important to have a conversation.
But before we even set off, I get a taste for just how charged the issue is.
It seems to me there ought to be some restrictions. Do you support any restrictions?
Well, I just don't think it should be an issue that government decides.
So no restrictions.
I just don't think it should even be in the. I think it's weird that they would ask a politician what they think about another woman's body. Like, why is that even in the discourse?
I think this whole idea of abortion is a form of slavery. It's a moral travesty, and slavery was one of the most terrible thing in our history. And I think abortion, yes, is another moral travesty in our nation's history that we will look back on and say, what a shame that we did this to women. Yeah, I do. I think it's...
Do you realize on the same day that SB 1 passed, the state of Indiana also cut funding to schools, health care benefits, and child care. So, is that pro-life?
No, you're right.
Those are some charged conversations that are happening out here.
Yes, very much so. And
Although Jeanine is engaged in these heated discussions on a daily basis, in this white majority district, things have gotten even more sinister.
when I first decided to file, literally the day that I filed, it was announced, I guess on the news, and that evening, probably by around 8 o'clock, I got a death threat onto my campaign phone, and it said basically, nigger, how dare you think that you can, run in Indiana, watch your back, and that was it. So I didn't expect it. And when you pick up the phone, you certainly don't think that's the call that you're going to get. You think you're getting congratulations calls, which most of them were.
Someone said it to you on the phone, it was down the phone?
Yeah, it was actually on the phone. So.
Sign of the times in 2022, right?
Right.
A sweeping new abortion ban went into effect in Indiana today, outlawing the procedure with limited exceptions.
The law in Indiana, which bans almost every abortion in the state, was passed because Republicans here hold a statewide supermajority. And that supermajority also just redrew the electoral boundaries in Janine's district, which in 2020 was the most competitive in the state. But despite this race becoming less fair, Janine is hoping that an increase in Indiana's registered female voters, which followed the Supreme Court decision, can carry her over the line. And out on the streets, it's easy to see why.
This is a lot of toys.
One of the biggest things that's on the ballot right now is Roe versus Wade and whether or not a woman should have a right to choose. And I just thought, do you guys mind commenting on that?
Of course,
Sure.
I'm happy to answer that. I think it's terrifying that people, women, everyone, people are deciding for them, and I think it's really sad.
It's one of those things where I do think everyone should have the option, and if they choose not to, good for them. But don't tell me what I can do.
A lot of people say that women living in the suburbs are basically the Republican Party's worst nightmare in this midterm election.
I hope so.
That's my mother-in-law.
We do too.
That's my mother-in-law is for sure.
Janine's campaign message is not just political, it's personal as well.
My mom and dad, they were not for abortion, let me say that. And I was raped and had a pregnancy. I didn't tell my dad because I just didn't want to do that, but I told my mom, and we talked, and I told her, I was like, Mom, this is what's happened. I'm really sorry, but I made the decision. I said I had an abortion, and I said, I'm really sorry, because I know that you don't agree with this. I know. I was like, but I didn't know. I was like, this is what I just think that was the best thing for me to do.
We're visiting Indiana during the first week the law came into effect, at a time when the rights Janine and millions of other women in the state had no longer exist here.
Unfortunately, in Indiana, we are currently legally unable to provide abortion services.
In the state of Indiana, we can't do it.
We came to an abortion clinic which had started to close, redirecting patients to other states where the process was still legal.
How many people would there normally be here on a Monday morning?
On a Monday morning, I would say probably 30 already. So this is an area that right now is totally dark. You can see that everything is
a bit eerie.
Shut down.
So dark.
It is. We know just based on studies that 1 out of every 4 reproductive capable people will choose abortion at some point in their life. So we all have come into contact and love and know people who've chosen abortion. It is going to be devastating for people who are sticking to the anti-choice rhetoric.
And those sticking to the rhetoric in this state include Republican Governor Eric Holcomb, who signed the ban into law. But despite the generational change going on here, it's very hard to find the men who voted for it to talk about it in public. But we tracked Governor Holcomb down at the launch of a college basketball event.
Hi, Governor. Here with the Guardian newspaper, doing a story about SB1 and the abortion ban that you signed into law.
So we've passed a law. It's entangled in our judicial system right now, rightly so. These are big, weighty issues on how to agree upon when is life, what is life, how you value life, and that's the debate that we'll have for the next 50 years.
This state has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the entire country. Numerous experts who have commented on this law and laws around the country say that this is jeopardizing women's lives in this state. How do you respond to that?
If you've researched that, you'll note that we have set out on our infant mortality rates and multiple
You are
indicators.
withdrawing health care from hundreds of thousands of women around this state.
We're adding health care too. We just
You are
passed a bill.
withdrawing
That bill that
abortion rights
the
to
bill that
hundreds
you
of
just
thousands.
referenced have added
just as a man,
wraparound services, and you know that. You read the bill. Right?
I know exactly what the bill is. I know. I've read the bill.
Would you acknowledge the tens of millions of dollars that we've added in wraparound services?
You are taking away healthcare rights from hundreds of thousands of women around this state by not allowing them to access abortion care. Are you not? I mean, do you not agree with that?
Sir.
One more question.
Sir.
Do you not feel?
Sir.
Do you not feel as a man?
Sir, I'm the press secretary, so you have to go through me. So you are.
He's the governor. He's standing in a public space. I can ask him questions.
It's just continually what you see in many of these states that have passed trigger bans or abortion laws in the wake of the Dobbs decision. Men, and it is mostly men in these positions of power, do not want to engage with the reality of what these bills are doing to hundreds of thousands of people's lives around the country and here in Indiana as well.
A few days later, a judge issued a temporary order blocking the bill, meaning that, for the time being, the procedure was legal again. It brought anti-abortion groups back out onto the streets. But for many of the people here, the abortion ban didn't go far enough in the first place.
What do you think about the state law here?
It could go farther. I wish it went further. It's great that it eliminates, I think they said 95-ish% of abortions, protects a lot of lives. However, the exceptions for rape and incest are not ideal.
So what's your view on the law that's just passed here?
I wish it was total no abortions whatsoever, even for possible anomalies with the babies or for the mother's life. I don't know.
Do you think a mother should die in order to give birth?
I would say from
that's morally
things I've read,
justifiable.
right. I would think they should give their life for the baby, and most of the time it won't happen.
Do you think that some of these politicians are a bit scared to come out in public and talk about it?
No.
That's certainly my perception, I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I would understand why that would be. I don't think they're scared. It's a hot issue, and there's a lot of pressure applied to our legislators. And in the ramp up to the special session in the State House, there were a lot of people down there, and there's a lot of signs, and there's a lot of yelling.
We talk about elected representatives here, though, right? That's their job, to be out in the public eye, to defend the decisions that they make, to defend the laws that they sign.
They also need time with their families. Sure. Right? They need time to relax. They need time to binge watch something on Netflix.
The Republicans backing this law may not be out in public, but in the 5th District, Janine is still riding the RV, knocking every door she can find.
Nice to see you. I'm Janine Lake. I had taken the purity promise. I was a virgin, and I was raped by an idiot that was basically, I considered an evil person. Okay, and so I chose, though. I just chose to have an abortion. Even though you had that choice yourself, you don't think that anybody else should have that choice?
I think that it's a murder.
So you consider yourself a murderer?
I do. I murdered that child, yes. Yep, guilty.
Are you a Christian?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you believe that God forgave you?
Well, he says that he does.
Did you forgive yourself?
Although her energy is palpable, Janine is essentially running her campaign alone, without much support from the party. And that makes it an even more exhausting battle.
There's no way this is the truth. Like, how did this happen? 50 years of this being the law of the land, women being protected, women having a right to choose, and now we're back, decades where we used to be. It's so infuriating to me.
Courts are supposed to enshrine rights, not take them away, right?
Right.
The dialing back of abortion rights is already a massively unpopular policy with most American voters. And in an increasingly tight election year, with so much at stake, that could make all the difference.